Welcome back to the show, everybody. What can I say? We've been building again. Working on the next phase of the RD-6 teardown. An engine stand / skid that will go under that giant rear tub here. So we've been rattle canning it. It just needs to be something better than bare metal because it's going to sit outside for a few days while, well, probably a couple weeks while I go and, you know, rotate 3 machines across it. But these are the 2 main pieces. On to the next. And those pieces that we just painted will work in conjunction with something else that I have out here. Oh, the sun. That's better. That I have out here on the heavy duty work table. Right here. This is a complete drawbar assembly off of an RD-6 or a 2H Series D6 or even the earlier Diesel 40. They were all the same. I purchased this probably a good 15 years ago now from a salvage yard outside of Boise, Idaho. Reason being, they had a few other pieces that I needed, and this is all I ever had for the drawbar on the narrow RD-6. Yeah, there's some stuff missing. No actual drawbar, half of the swing plate. Brackets were decent, but I knew I was going to need plenty of parts. So I had them throw this on the pallet with the rest of the parts. They shipped it on up. And even at first glance, I knew, oh boy, this old drawbar had seen some action. Lots of wear all over. But it was better than what I had on the narrow RD-6, so I kept it around. And some 15 years later, I'm finally pulling all the stuff back out and going through it. So before I break this down into the usable bits that I plan on putting onto that tub stand, I need to let this tell its story. And it has to do with things that I've learned in the years since I bought that and the people that I have met and talked to. There are some interesting wear patterns on that drawbar that I've only ever heard people talk about, but I have never actually seen with my own eyes until I finally took a good look at that 2 days ago. And it tells a really incredible story. It tells you exactly what that tractor did for most of its working life. It lets you know exactly where it came from, where it did all that work. If you're a tractor geek like me, you're really going to love it. I'm even actually a little bit excited, but as Paul Harvey used to say, time for the rest of the story. So quickly for perspective, I have this sitting on the table upside down. We're looking at the bottom side of it here. When it's right side up, it looks exactly like what's on the back of this Diesel 40. In order to see everything clearly, I need to get the drawbar out of the swing plates. So that involves taking this side bracket off. Bolts out. The spacer comes out. And now we should be able to slide the drawbar. There we are, right out like that. And remember, we're upside down, so gravity is pulling everything in this direction as well as the weight of the hitch, pulling these pieces together in that direction. So the normal wear, we've got the drawbar pinhole wear where they start to egg out. You see that all over. Also, the swing plate wear from that drawbar swinging side to side between those 2 plates, you see that everywhere. And the swing plate wear that is put onto the drawbar, indicated by that big patch. This is excessive, but it's not atypical. You see that everywhere. Let me see if I can flip this with one hand. Yeah. Okay. So this would be the top side, and this is the real tell for how badly this drawbar was worn. We still stepped down quite a bit from right there to right there. And that is from the upper swing plate. Anytime you had a real good load on the hitch or you were transitioning, like possibly tractor starts uphill but the implement's on the flat, that's when it pulls the drawbar up, and that's just upward thrust into that top plate. That's pretty excessive to see. But where it gets real special, the old weld line that goes right here and the other one that goes right there, you can see they're just raised a little bit, and each one's about as wide as my finger. All right, that's where they broke this drawbar clean off. So we'll flip it back over again. The heavy plate that they put in here for filler shows how thin that was at its thinnest point when they finally broke it. And it makes sense that they broke it on either side of that pinhole that would center it fixed to the swing plates, because that's going to be your weakest spot on each side of that, and that's exactly where it broke. So I measured the thickness of the drawbar back here, and then the thickness of it right through here where it got to its thinnest point. They had worn 2/3 of the material clean off by the time that finally got so thin that the yoke end just detached. And I think that's when they finally had to stop and do all these repairs, try to replace material and also reattach the yoke to the main bar. And to get a better look at swing plate wear, we will stand them up on edge. And again, this is rather normal, all right? It's easy to see how thick they are out at the ends and how much thinner they are in the center. So they weren't running with a pinned drawbar. It made a lot of travel from about right there to about right there. But that's, you know, course correction in the field, or if you tow something on a side hill and it wants to drift down and the hitch moves a little bit, but it doesn't take a lot of travel. Anytime there is metal rubbing on metal, you get wear. That's where all of that came from. But it's on the edges of these swing plates that I found the wear that really tells the story. So all these little hash mark looking things, or it looks like someone took the square edge of a file and just started filing little grooves in there. It goes all the way across, okay? Present down here, and those are pretty deep. They're also present on the other one, although not as exaggerated. So then I looked at the leading edge of this main drawbar front bracket, and look at that. The same type of wear on the leading edges of that piece. There's even a hint of that on the leading edge of this bracket. This is an accessory factory option. So this would have been the front skeleton tow hook. You can see the parts manual diagram of it here. And the tow hook would be at the front of the tractor, and then a long brace would run down underneath it, and then that brace would attach to this bracket, which attached to the main pull point under the chassis for strength, okay? But we even have, to a lesser degree, kind of a few little grooves that have been worn into the face of this diagonal gusset right here. So anything that was on the leading edge of the bottom side of that tractor. Going back to our Diesel 40 parts tractor, Old Frosty here, this is the leading edge of the swing plates that we're looking at on the bench. Okay, so something repeatedly came by, hit that front edge, and then drug on past. And the only thing that can put all of these sawtooth wear marks like this into steel is wheat stubble. Tens of thousands of hours of driving over freshly cut wheat stubble stalks, okay? And it makes sense. This came from Idaho. You're getting out into the big wheat fields, wheat country out there. And that's also when combine harvesters were still pulled off the drawbar. They were not yet self-propelled, and they preferred track-type tractors out in that area because they held side hills a lot better. They pulled up and down hills a lot better. And you're looking at tens of thousands of hours of this drawbar hitting all those wheat stubble stalks. And this also shows they've flipped these plates, okay? This one, with them being the deepest, this used to be on the bottom. But I'm thinking when they broke this drawbar, they flipped these around. They put the bottom to the top and the top to the bottom. That's why we don't have as deep of cuts on this one as we do up here. But some of the people I've talked to from that region say those saw cuts could be twice as deep. And how it works, the stalks, the wheat stubble coming across these will just start developing just small little grooves. But if it's enough to trap the incoming stalks as they come through, it keeps funneling all of those stalks down to the roots, and you get the stalks starting to wear deeper and deeper grooves because they all start funneling into those grooves. It's just like teeth on a comb, okay? And then you run your thumb over that for 20,000 hours, you'd have a groove too. But that was cool. I'd never actually seen that with my own eyes until I flipped this over the other day. The light caught it just right, and I'm like, I know exactly what did that. So it's not just a wives' tale. It isn't just a legend. It really can happen. All right. I have processed all the pieces. So these are the two that I'm going to use for our new stand. These are the keepers. I like this bracket for that skeleton front hook. Don't know that I'll ever need it, but good to have it. And I'm keeping this plate. This is the one that has the deepest of the stubble cuts, the saw cuts in it. So I think that's going to be an interesting wall hanger. Plus, just how thin that thing gets in the middle. Lots of scrape marks from that drawbar. The rest of the pieces are all too worn or too compromised to reliably be able to trust again. So these will probably go away. So here's my thinking. Stovepipes drawbar brackets were way too hacked up to use for anything. That's why they're gone. But these are basically like a spare set. So I can keep these for that tub stand. They can go on in place of the originals. All right, hang one there. Hang the other one here. And I'll use one of Stovepipe's drawbar swing plates. This one actually wasn't in too bad shape, and it's nice and flat. And having the studs out of these brackets will allow me to just use bolts and attach just this single plate like so. These two pieces that we painted this morning now each have an upright. Each upright has a flat plate with a hole drilled in the center and a nut welded on the inside. So each one of these uprights will go beneath that single drawbar swing plate, and we can align these with holes in the plate and bolt everything solid at the back. The other holes that go up each channel are for the pieces in here. These make up the front attaching points. These two channels will stack on each other. There's the forward upright and a flat piece of steel for the front drawbar mounting surface. It's on the bottom of that tub. So fun fact, this 5/8 steel plate at the top is reclaimed steel from the heavy LaPlante choke blade mounts, dozer mounts that we torched off of old Stovepipe Diesel 40. All the nice flat stuff I saved for further use, or sorry, future use. So upcycling right there. That old stuff's already coming in handy. The plan now, let all this paint dry for another day. So tomorrow we'll assemble that under that big tub, see if it all lines up. Okay, we're fully on the stand, and hopefully now it makes more sense. Both of the rear uprights bolt to that swing plate at the back, and we have the single post at the front right there that attaches to that front drawbar pull point. Strongest part of the whole tub right there. And it might look a little bit funny because we have so much casting sticking out ahead of that front post. But I analyzed it. No matter how this is loaded, fully assembled, partially, or completely disassembled, it's always heaviest behind that front plate. So there's no way it can flop. And it's bolted solid anyhow. So nothing's going to go anywhere at all. This stand raises the whole tub about 3 inches. In millimeters, it's about that far. But what that does is pull the sprockets completely out of the track chains on both sides. So we can pull the chains out, pull them back in if we want, nothing's in the way. And having the single front post up here should give me room to detach the track frames and have these diagonal braces pass by on either side of that post without hitting anything. That way I can just unbolt, let them set down on the chains, and roll them forward. Let's see if it works. All right, let's just see what I can do by hand. Oh yeah, we're still gonna hit back here just a little bit. Old shim? I think that's a homemade shim, huh? It is stovepipe after all. So we'll have to, oh yeah, tweak it down just a little bit. Yeah, all clear. Granted, I just crashed, but you know. I think it's balanced enough. Oh yeah, easy enough. Tip it right back up. So it isn't the perfect pass under that I had in mind. Looking at it now, I would probably have to raise it that much more, but I don't want to go that high with it. That would start to get borderline top heavy. It's not a big deal. You can move these by hand enough, get that down, or you could probably even let that drag right across. So it works. Still impressive that I can do this by hand. Okay, I'm happy with the end result. I really am. It's going to do everything it needs to do. We are set up to work on these tubs now safely and solidly, and I can hook onto these now and pull them wherever I need to take them. We can't pick these up and carry them with our tractor, so this is our next best thing. And this was the last of the real heavy building to get us all set up to handle everything on the back ends of these now. And we have the skid stand from the engine that handles everything on the front end. I've joked about it before, but it's really true. Getting yourself set up to work on these is every bit as much work as actually working on them. I knew this episode was going to take quite a while, and it did, but I'm glad to finally be where we are. So I can move forward here now, figure out how these finals come apart, and we will pretty much be done with stovepipe. I'll process these track frames through. There's not a lot here to save. Yeah, these frame channels have both been broken off in the same spot. Heavy welding, old plating. They're bent. Look at how much they had to slot these holes to get them to line up with the pillow blocks, okay? And that eats final drive bearings when things aren't in alignment. Same with this one. Lots of welding, lots of plating. This one is bent and tweaked when you look at it. They've even been adding metal on the fronts up here where the idlers have just worn. Yeah, we'll see if there's anything good for track rollers here, but frames, they're a write-off. You can see what I have staged handy. I think that's going to be my main wrench. So we'll see about bearings, collars, maybe shafts, roller shells. I don't have high hopes, but we'll get those processed through. So I hope you all enjoyed the episode. You learned about stubble cuts on drawbars and why that happens, and we had fun building an engine. I keep saying engine stand, a tub stand. We're working on the back end now, man. So, all right, I'll let y'all go. Thank you all for watching. I hope to see you back next time.